Okay, now we have our Flexitarian Lasagne. This is just an overview of what you would traditionally put into a lasagna ragu. The key components are the beef mince, which is about 5% lean, and our pea protein, and we have starch in there to help with the viscosity.
And obviously we're not going to fully cook out the lasagna today. We would be here for quite a while, but I understand that you've got one there which is pretty much ready to go just before the starch stage.
Yeah, as you can see on the camera there, it's at the stage where, yes, we're going to add the starch slurry, and then that cooks out for about 10 minutes at 90 degrees.
And obviously, starch isn't something which is new to the industry. It's been around quite a long time, but there's been some advances with starch over the last few years.
Yes.
What's different about this one?
Yeah, so actually we see really a lot of modified starch in this kind of recipe. But today we have a lot of solution and we have clean label solution. So here it is a starch, a classic one, and we have a lot of different reference in order to fit to all the different kind of process, of stability we need to fit. So yeah, it is really useful, and here it will give this viscosity in order to have good layer, also to avoid the transfer, but also stabilize the water in order to have a really stable product at the end without any resist.
And the other key ingredient here, being a flexitarian lasagna, is the TVP.
Yeah.
This obviously specifically is a pea TVP. Flexitarianism is as important as veganism. People want to just reduce the amount of meat that they're consuming within their diets each week. What's interesting about this one and how it works?
Yeah, so it is texturized pea protein.
Yeah.
So it is extruded protein concretely, and we can have different kind of product like this. So we have pea, we have fava bean, we have different size. Here it's really nice because it's kind of the same size of beef. So it's nice to do like inclusion of that. And the really main goal in this case is to do flexitarian. So we don't want to remove the meat. We want to mix both for different issue, economical, texture, but also taste. We can test. So here it's just water. So iterative. You see here it's the dry one. We hydrate it during 20 minutes at least in order to do that. So we can do a lot of things. You see. And
obviously, there's been some great advances within TVP. Where this is very much denatured, deflavored. There's not a lot going on in there.
No much flavor. So finally you can play and use different marinade or different spices. If here it's just water, but finally you can have some different flavors already, and you infuse, exactly on the TVP, and you can create a lot of different recipe in this case. So yeah, the goal is to play with all these ingredients. Really good tool for flexitarian products.
And obviously from a culinary point of view, we've been experimenting in the kitchen with using 100% TVP within bologneses. We've touched in other videos on the benefits of flavors and aromas to help create that meaty note. And with the input of chefs, you can add spices and and really layer up flavor to give that that meaty And
that's the beauty of it. You're using the chef skill as well, the culinary skill to kind of bring those flavors into that protein. So
well, there's a real marriage between the culinary and the innovation side.
The technical side of things.
And also the nutritional, because we can have more fiber, we have more protein in this case, and we can do a lot of things. So industrial is really need this kind of tool in order, for example, all the lasagna industrial is doing just with milk, but we see that some schools, some collectivity is asking to have vegetarian menu. So it is a really, really easy solution to fit this kind of project.
And obviously you mentioned, economical benefits earlier, and in terms of, you mentioned schools and hospitals, this sort of thing. You can now, rather than just removing the amounts of protein, you can replace protein with something which is equally as good, but potentially there's a slightly lower cost without a detriment to the flavour or the quality.
Exactly.
I think we're about there, aren't we, Glyn?
Yeah.
More or less. Obviously, normally you'd want to give this about a 90 for 10, but I can kind of see that you have got a thicker, silkier.
You can already see that the consistency is completely changed. You've got the right ratio of sauce around the pea protein and the mince. And looks like a good ragu, rich, indulgent ragu.
Perfect. Well, obviously this is one half of the lasagna. We've got to sort out the bechamel sauce now, so we'll see you back here in a minute then.
Yep, no problem. Thank you.
Great.
Now we have our bechamel sauce that's going to accompany the lasagna, which we previously made the ragu. So for the purposes of speeding the process, we have already in the saucepan here milk and cream and butter, salt and pepper. As you can see at this stage, it's very loose and very liquid, but that's just coming up to temperature. What I'll do then is add the slurry with the starches, and then that needs a kind of 90 degrees, 10-minute cookout.
Yeah, and obviously in the essence of time, you might as well start adding. We know normally we'd need a 90 for sort of 10 to really cook out those starches. Obviously, you know, we spoke about starches, you know, other videos, but in this one, you know, these are creating textures and viscosity and also mouthfeel. What's the challenge in this recipe? What's the importance of this recipe?
So here you see that we are not doing a traditional process.
Exactly.
Normally a béchamel, you know, that we have to put the butter, to put the flour, to do a roux in order to have this viscosity after. So here the goal, the big challenge is to decrease finally the cream and the butter level than usual, than a classic recipe, and to have a more balanced nutritional recipe finally for different reasons.
Yeah.
And so here what we will use, it is starch, so in this case more flour, so tapioca, rice flour, because we have this mouthfeel, this creaminess effect, really useful in order to replace fat. Finally, all what we lose, we will earn thanks to this starch and flour. So flour for texturizer, and we had also, and you see that Glyn mix the flour with another starch, so it's a co-texturizer. And here it's not for viscosity, but more to add more mouthfeel again, because we don't have enough, so we need to fit this gap, and it will give really this add value. So it's really good tools finally when you innovate, when you have some gap of level of fat, because depends on the diet, depends on the project, and you can use really this texturizer, so a couple of texturizer and co-texturizer in order to fit this recipe. So it's really what we use every day for all the new project we can have with our customer.
Oh, really interesting. Obviously, you know, from a culinary point of view, Glyn, you know, these starches and these kind of texturizers, they've been around for a while now, but they are, you know, they're getting used more and more and more, especially within flexitarian and vegan recipes. I mean, how you found using them?
Yeah, I think for me it's an education, isn't it, from a chef perspective, culinary perspective. It's, you know, you're replacing, as you said, the roux, the butter, the flour which you cook out, but you're using these starches which give you that mouthfeel, give you the creamy notes, give you that kind of lactic, real kind of texture that you'd expect from a real, you know, kind of classical.
We keep the taste.
Yes, exactly. But no, it's clever. It's very clever.
Yeah, and obviously, you know, you can't really, you know, replicate a roux type process within a factory. You know, these help to kind of replace that and build upon those classical cooking techniques. And obviously, we've touched on, you know, on what they do, but what other benefits do they bring to the products, and what sort of other options do you have? Yeah,
so when we would check all the recipe, we can see that there is still a lot of modified starch. So here everything is clean label, so the flour, the co-texturizer, and finally we have the same resistance, because we will have different product in order to fit to the process again, to the recipe, what kind of viscosity you need. And the goal finally has all the starch, it's to keep the water stable in the product, in order if the lasagna is frozen, if it's a shy product, we can have really stable product at the end thanks to the starch, and no semi-resist, for example. It's what the customer is watching a lot, to have nice product at the end.
And obviously, you know, we've spoken in the previous part of this video about the economical benefits, and obviously historically, you know, when you had to cut out cost of products, it would effectively cheapen the bechamel, whereas now advancements within starches and obviously aromas and flavors and that, I mean, you can reduce costs without having to.
There is a really cost reduction interest, and we know that the market is changing also. We see some product not available or really difficult to have sometimes, so it is also some new solution in order to have viscosity and change the recipe differently. It is good tool. It is like a nice tool that we can change. But we have also another aspect here. We have this texturizer with milk, but we can use also oat milk. We can imagine to have a full with the protein, the texturized protein for the lasagna. But you can have
a full
oat,
vegan.
Yeah, finally we can have for full vegan lasagna with oat milk béchamel. We can imagine that. So everything is. It is tool. It is what we use every day in order to help all our customers in this new way, new trend of products.
Great. Well, I think we're pretty much there. I know normally you probably leave it for another sort of 4 or 5 minutes, but I can see that sort of looks quite silky, quite glossy, doesn't it?
Yeah, let's get a spoon just quickly and show you how that looks. So as you can see on the camera there, that already, literally that is thickened up and become creamy. Yeah, it's just starting to do its job.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, well, we can leave that, finishing off on the leave that finishing off on the stove. But I understand that you've got one that we have made earlier and chilled down.
I do. So yeah, obviously from a manufacturing perspective, this would be obviously cooked hot and then chilled down, cap cold, and then this is the kind of consistency that you end up with once that's fully chilled. So you really have that lovely velvety, silky, kind of shiny
like
texture.
A set texture a little bit,
which is perfect.
It is really important.
It's
really, and you see it's really glossy. It is really one point when you want to see if it's stable also. So it is really important.
So it's done its job. It's cooked out correctly.
So I guess the next stage would be to fully layer a lasagna. Again, time means we can't do it for today, but I know again.
If by magic. We have one here that we've layered up. So this is just a kind of 550 gram kind of weight. And basically 3 layers of ragu, 3 layers of egg pasta, and then the lovely creamy bechamel on top with freshly grated parmesan and a little bit of grated mozzarella. And that's it in its raw state. Once you've layered it, then that would be al fornoed, placed in the oven, cooked for about half an hour from a customer perspective. So here's one again I've made earlier, which is hot. I've got asbestos fingers. And this is how it looks once it's had 30 minutes of cook. So it looks indulgent.
Looks good.
It's got the gloss. It looks authentic, doesn't it? With that lovely crispy kind of pasta as well. And that bechamel's done its job. It's held on top very, very well. Yeah,
well, really looking forward to trying that, Glyn. Looks amazing. It doesn't look at all like you've.
At home.
It doesn't look at all like you've. We've taken out half the meat and half the fat and cheese out of the product. It looks brilliant. Just to recap, just to summarise, again, this product is, it's that gap between vegan, it fills that flexitarian gap, doesn't it, where, you have a very healthy product, but you're still not compromising on the flavour, you're not compromising on the texture.
Exactly. And we see a good layer, you see, finally, all the structure is okay. We see that, so the starch we put in the ragu, keep the structure correctly, and after all the bechamel, even if it's not a standard process, we see that we have a really nice texture and creaminess.
Yeah. I mean, you have that gloss and you have that stability as well, because we have touched on the starch element of this, and we're replacing flours and we're replacing classical cooking ingredients with the innovations you have within the industry now, and from here it's held up beautifully, hasn't it?
And the label list finally is really clean at the end. And we are really fit with all the train we can have every day.
And that's it. You don't have that the consumer doesn't have that fear of looking at a back of pack and looking at a list of ingredients they don't fully understand.
Exactly.
We're moving closer and closer to that kind of stage. Glyn, it looks fantastic.
Ready?
Looks amazing.
We're always ready to test.
Let's see what you think.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, looks great. I mean, you cut straight into it. You've got that crisp on the top, and then, that bechamel is really, really creamy still.
Really good.
You're really good.
Like at home.
Yeah, the thing is, you can't tell that you have taken half the meat out.
If a consumer didn't check that it is not just beef, but beef plus texturized. Honestly, we don't see and we don't feel this, and it is really the same texture, even the same bit than the meat. So really good.
I'm going to finish this off, but Glyn, thank you very much. Anne, thank you very much.
Thanks to you.
Yeah, look forward to seeing you next time.
It's a pleasure. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Cheers.